just gonna outright say it. Every chicken tender meal that's out there is mid. This one is not. Fresh, crispy fried chicken that is absolutely maxed out on flavor. Coleslaw that you have loving dreams about, not nightmares. And more importantly, a sauce that you don't rely on, but a sauce that you want on everything. That being said, let's make this, shall we? We're gonna start by marinating our chicken, then we'll prep our sides, sauce, and finally fry and serve. Let's just have our marinade done and out of the way. It's really simple. 2 cups of buttermilk, 1 tablespoon plus a teaspoon of kosher salt, 1 teaspoon of sugar, 1.5 teaspoons of MSG. I would not recommend skipping that. 2 teaspoons of garlic powder, half a teaspoon of onion powder. You might be tempted to go, oh, half a teaspoon, I'm gonna add more. Listen, you don't know what you're talking about. Onion powder, for some reason, has some superpower where it makes everything taste only like onions if you use too much of it. So gotta hold back a little bit on that one. 2 teaspoons of smoked paprika and 1 teaspoon of cayenne powder. Not a half teaspoon, okay? Ante up, I want a little heat. All right, you're gonna whisk that together until thoroughly combined. All those spices are nice and evenly distributed. Now we essentially have the landing zone for all of our strips, because you do have to do a little bit of prep on tenders that a lot of people forget to do. You'll need 2 pounds, boneless, skinless chicken tenders. So when it comes to tenders, I got a little secret for you. A lot of the time, whenever people make a little chicken tender recipe, they're like, oh, here's your chicken tender. Well, guess what? That's a tendon. That's gonna be really yucky to bite down on because it's chewy. It will not melt when you cook it. It will just stay exactly like it is, and it's like biting into a rubber band. So first you need to look through your tenders and find which ones have a tendon in the first place. So this is actually a little bit of a smaller one, right? A little harder to get to. Really easy. Take a sharp knife, dig underneath the tendon. Avoid removing too much meat here. We just wanna kind of pry it out, okay? So I'm kind of running my knife along underneath that tendon, providing a little bit, sawing just to loosen it. The tendon is loose, it's flapping around. Using a paper towel, which just helps you grip it. You don't have to use a paper towel, but you're gonna grip that little tendon, right? So I'm holding onto the tendon now. And you could just pinch where it's attached, but it's actually much easier if you take a fork, hook it underneath that, and then gently pull that tendon out. Sometimes the tendons will tear the tender into 2 pieces. You're better off doing that than leaving this in there. I'm telling you, it will ruin the eating experience. Tendon. Do it with all of your chicken tenders. Anytime you see them, take them out. It'll take you like 10 minutes. As you complete that process, or if they don't have tendons in them, place them in your marinade, every single tender. You're gonna get in there with your hands gently, just massage them. They might make unusual noises. Don't think about it too much. The point is we want them to be completely enrobed, coated in the marinade. I don't want one of them sticking to another and creating a vacuum where a whole half of a tender isn't getting coated. We want all of this coated in the marinade. Then you're gonna cover this tightly with plastic wrap. Ideally, you wanna let this rest for like 20 minutes. You could bread them right away and it'll work just fine, but the flavor penetration really only happens after a full night of marinating. So depending on how much time you have. If you have the time, make it ahead, make it 2 days ahead. Your dredge. You never wanna overdo it with the spices you put in here. You put too many, they burn. So we're gonna try to balance maximizing flavor without them burning. So first, obviously, 2 cups of all-purpose flour. Josh, what if I wanna make it gluten-free? I don't know, use gluten-free flour. It probably will be okay. 1 tablespoon of kosher salt, 1 teaspoon of MSG, again, double MSG, always. 2 teaspoons of garlic powder, half a teaspoon. Onion powder, 1 teaspoon of fresh ground black peppercorn, 1 teaspoon of smoked paprika, 1 teaspoon of cayenne. We got a lot of 1 teaspoons here. And finally, half a teaspoon of dried thyme. I actually like to take the dried thyme in my fingers and kind of like just grind it up. Get it a little bit finer, get any whatever is remaining of the essential oils that are in it, if there are any. Then you're gonna whisk that together till thoroughly combined, all one substance, not garlic powder over here, thyme over here, flour over here. It's all one dredge. That's how you know the spices are good. What do we do now? Fry seasoning. You don't have to do this, but think about it. Think about the times you're like, when you get a really good seasoned fry and you pop it in your mouth, the crunch, but then the release of that seasoning. You melt into your lawn chair or whatever the you're on. If you're gonna make a fry seasoning, this is the only one for these tenders. 2 teaspoons of chicken bouillon powder. It could be Lee Kum Kee, it could be Knorr, whatever you want, just make sure it has MSG in it. You could also just replace it with MSG, I guess. 2 teaspoons of smoked paprika, 1 teaspoon of cayenne powder, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, half a teaspoon of cumin ground, half a teaspoon of fresh ground black pepper, 2 teaspoons of kosher salt, there's a lot of seasonings in it, 1 teaspoon of sugar. So it's a 2-to-1 salt-sugar ratio, right? It's not quite as salty as you would think, it's actually a little bit sweet, and that's what I want. A half teaspoon of dried thyme. Whisk that together, and you have a beautifully colored fry seasoning. I mean, that's gonna be good. Coleslaw. Relax. I wanna make a coleslaw that everybody desires, that you go to sleep and you think of this coleslaw crunching in between your teeth. You might even wanna go to sleep with it as your pillow. Maybe not that far, but coleslaw that is good. So you start with a head of green cabbage, like a medium, smallish one. Split that in half. Now, you have this half here, right? We need to remove the core. There's a couple ways to do that. Easiest way to do it, split it in half again, cut side down. You can see the core here where the line is. You're gonna kind of follow that all the way through. This line represents essentially exactly where that core is. So I'm gonna cut across like that. That's the core. You don't have to remove it, but like it does create a lot of inconsistency in your sliced cabbage. Now, slicing this cabbage can be done one of two ways, with a knife or with a finger death trap. If you want it really thin and consistent, I would use a finger death trap, which is what I will be doing. So you're gonna cut this as thinly, that was the bowl. You're gonna cut this as thinly as you possibly can. I'm thinking like shaved, essentially, right? Like very, very, very thin like this. Every head is gonna be different. The thing about cabbage is it produces way more sliced cabbage than you could ever possibly need. You only need about 4 cups. Whatever's left, just save it in your fridge, roast it, serve it, put it in a soup, use it for something else. So ideally you wanna try to dress this as closely to you serving your food as possible. You ever get coleslaw and it's just watery as so I have a little trick to prevent that from happening as much. To your cabbage specifically, I want you to season it with a generous pinch of salt, toss it with that salt, and then I want you to kind of start to massage it, kind of squeeze the cabbage. And what you'll notice is all of a sudden, wait a minute, this cabbage is getting kind of wet. That's what you want. Toss again. Now it's really gonna start to get juicy here. So this is doing 2 things. It's curing your cabbage, so now your cabbage is seasoned with salt, which is great. But more importantly, it's gonna start to draw out that moisture. You can let this sit for a minute or 2, it'll draw out even more. What you can do is get a separate bowl, wring out your cabbage over the sink just to get a good amount of liquid out of it, right? And place it in the new bowl. Now you've essentially sped up the process of the cabbage weeping water into your final product, so you don't have to worry about that anymore. Cabbage goes into the big bowl. 1 large carrot grated. Yeah, maybe be careful how you grate this, because sometimes your hand slips. That's what your knuckle sounds like when it grates across the top of it, so try to be cognizant of that. To this, you're gonna add the zest of 1 lemon. Now we're gonna add half a cup of mayonnaise. This can be any mayonnaise, Kewpie, I don't care, homemade mayo, great. 1 teaspoon of Dijon mustard, 2 teaspoons of sugar, a half teaspoon of MSG. You can also omit the MSG, it's not a necessity, right? Fresh cracked black pepper, pinch of salt to taste, 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. You can use either tongs or gloves, and you're just gonna toss this together and dress it until thoroughly and fully coated. You can call that done, but if you wanna add a little bit of flair, right? A little bit of color, but also just like nice flavor, you can add about 1 to 2 tablespoons of thinly sliced chives and then just toss those in there. It just adds like a depth of flavor that most coleslaws don't have. I'm putting this as optional because it's another thing you gotta go buy, and it's obviously not a traditional coleslaw at that point, but it tastes really good. Just toss that all in there, make sure it's thoroughly combined, and your coleslaw is ready. I'm tired of the toast that they give you at these chicken tender shops. This is Texas, motherfucker. Well, actually, you may not be in Texas, but I am. So we have Texas toast. To begin, small saucepan, 1 stick or half a cup of butter, unsalted. Heat that to medium heat and just melt that. Your bread choice really matters. I want anemic white bread, not homemade bread, the industrial kind. You gotta trust me, thick cut if you can find it. In Texas, we got literal Texas toast white bread. It's square, thick, it's soft like a cloud. Something like this is what you want. Once your butter is melted, cut off the heat, and you're gonna add 4 cloves of finely chopped garlic. Please, fresh garlic, for God's sake. And then 1.5 teaspoons of kosher salt. Stir that all together. Again, the heat is off. We're not cooking this any further. I just want this to kind of like act almost as a tea and gently coax the garlicky flavor in there. Now let that sit for like 20, 30 seconds. I've got my bread, and this portion's very simple, okay? You need yourself a little pastry brush, swirl it through the butter, pick up some of that garlic, and I want you to lightly brush each slice with your garlic mixture on both sides. Don't overdo it because it will absorb quite a lot of butter. We just want 1 thin layer across each piece. So just pop this bad boy into an oven at 375 Fahrenheit for 10 to 12 minutes. Now we do have a sauce, but I believe a good chicken tender needs no sauce. The sauce is just a little extra oomph if you want it. Now we all know Cane's primarily exist because of their sauce, not because of their tenders. And this sauce is better than their sauce. And these tenders are better than their tenders. And my shoes better. And my hair better. All right, okay. So we're gonna do 1 cup of mayo. I'd recommend 1 homemade. The second, Duke's. The third, Kewpie. Those are the only 3 you can use here. To that, you're gonna add a 1/4 cup of ketchup, 2 tablespoons of Dijon mustard. You could also use yellow mustard if you want. 1 tablespoon of Worcestershire, 1 teaspoon of white distilled vinegar, half a teaspoon of garlic powder, not fresh garlic, 1 teaspoon of MSG, and optionally, you can add a tablespoon of sriracha if you wanted a little bit of heat and if you happen to have it, but it's not a necessity at all in this flavor. Season that lightly to taste with salt, a little fresh cracked black pepper, and then just whisk that until thoroughly combined. See, doesn't that remind you of somebody's sauce, but way better? Breading this chicken. Before you even start, identify what your dry hand, wet hand should be. Typically, non-dominant is wet hand, dominant is dry hand. So I'm gonna take my wet hand, just kind of dig into this marinade, and I want you to, you see how it's kind of running off my fingers? I want you to gently just sort of flick it into your dredge. Give that a little toss, mix it together, and then do that one more time. Flick, flick, flick. And what you're doing is you're creating little beads of sort of clumpy flour. That is the key to the flakiness, because they're gonna flatten and then open up when you bread and then fry this. So take a chicken tender, drop it in your flour, and then just gently kind of press and toss until completely and thoroughly coated. No bald spots whatsoever. It's okay if some areas are lightly coated, but generally you want to avoid bald spots. You want full coverage on this tender. Shake off the excess, pop onto a sheet tray, and then repeat with all your tenders. You don't have to do it one at a time. You can probably put 2 or 3 at a time. I would avoid overcrowding this, because then you're gonna end up with like a clumpy flour mess that doesn't have any flour left. Texas toast is done. Take that out of the oven. Look at these beauties. It probably smells very good in your kitchen, and that's a good sign. You're gonna finish these off with a little bit of fresh chopped parsley. That's optional. I think it makes it look extra Texas toasty. You're gonna serve these warm with your chicken tender meal. If these for some reason come out a little too early, you can always take them out, let them cool down, and then just warm them back up wrapped in foil before you serve. You could even make this ahead of time and then just re-warm it in the oven. French fries. I'm not gonna make you make your French fries from scratch. I'm gonna be honest. In this case, it's very rarely worth it, because you're already putting in so much effort here. Personally, if it were me, I would just find the best bag of frozen French fries you can find. These extra crispy Ore-Ida fries are fine. You already have fry oil that's ready. You might as well get some frozen fries so you can double up. So before you fry your chicken, in a pot that's filled with vegetable oil, a little over halfway. So in this case, we have a 6-quart pot, and we've got about 3 quarts of vegetable oil in there. Get your frozen fries, and in batches, you're gonna fry them at 350 Fahrenheit. Now just let that fry till the bubbles begin to subside. They're golden brown and crisp like this. All right, once those are dropped, if you made the seasoning, hit them with seasoning. You wanna hit them immediately when they come out from the heat. That way the spices actually adhere. If you let this cool down completely, they will not adhere. They'll just fall right off, trust me. Once those are out, you can now fry your tendies. In batches of 3 to 4 tenders, we got 1, 2, 3, lay away from you. And you're just gonna let that fry until they're golden brown. The bubbling has subsided, and more importantly, the internal temperature is 165 Fahrenheit. To serve, lay down a generous portion of your French fries, as little or as much as you like, followed by your crispy tenders, your coleslaw and sauce, ideally in ramekins, and then your toast, which has been sliced in half on a bias. You can do 2 slices to a person, 3 slices to a person. Now, if this ain't a 3-piece tender meal, I don't know what is. People come over to your house to see this, they're already gonna be happy. But how does it taste? Got a beautiful tender here, a little dip. First of all, are you hearing that? The crunch, that already is something that a lot of chicken tender places just don't have. They're not crispy. They have like a thick, chewy breading. This is like wispy, crispy. The seasoning on it's so nice. It's got a little bit of heat, and then the sweet richness from the sauce. Everything you could ever want, but just maxed out on flavor. The fries are great, even if they weren't seasoned, but man, the seasoning on this, not spicy at all, but instead, there's almost like a smoky sweetness to the spicing on that. A little bit of coleslaw. Absolutely nobody can compete with this. If you don't like coleslaw, this is the one that you might be able to get over it, because it's just so refreshing. This still tastes of fresh carrot, of fresh cabbage. It's got a good crunch. Even the Dijon mustard has a little bit of zing to it. But this, shockingly, I feel so dumb saying this, but the Texas toast might be one of the best parts of this. It is so good. If you wrap a chicken tender in that and dip it in the sauce, a little coleslaw, you feel like you've died and have been resuscitated back to life in a beautiful land of chicken tender. Anyone can make this. You can pick and choose what you want to make. Maybe you just make the Texas toast and the tenders. You have every maxed out element to make the perfect chicken tender meal at home. It's yours for free. The link's in the description on the website for the full written recipe if you want to print it out. Love you so much. Subscribe.